Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I actually wanted to go over the use of space in relationships with somebody who is an avoidant. Sometimes I really believe the best thing that you can do is to give an avoidant space, but it's particular. And so, we're going to talk about those aspects and what space means, and we're going to break it up, I guess, by the stage of the relationship and then times that the space can be benefited. So the first section is we're going to talk about what space, the time of space, will look like depending on your stage of the relationship. And the second portion is we're going to talk about when to use space to benefit your relationship with an avoidant, and then we're going to summarize it. But first, let's first define what kind of space means in general. Space actually is dependent on the nature of your relationship. Some couples think space means don't see each other for a couple days. Sometimes couples think space means don't talk about that topic for a couple days, but you can still be next to each other, hugging, kissing, being intimate, whatever it is. And sometimes people think space is where you actually directly say, hey, our relationship needs a break, things of that sort. And I think that's like really intense. But some people think that way. I need space from this relationship. Let's talk at this time next week or after I get back from vacation. And so what constitutes as a healthy amount of space, as we had mentioned, it depends on the nature of your relationship. So let's actually overview what this will look like dependent on the stage of the relationship. Now, this is likely going to be relationships that are kind of straight through, no off and on when I talk about the timings. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more and clarify. So the first part of this is relationships that have been together for 1 year or less. That's what I mean by straight through. It's not like off and on every month. It's like you guys have been together for about a year or less, at least for a certain amount of time, and no breakups, at least no official breakups. Sometimes with a relationship like this, space actually means a couple of days of little to no texting or communication. That can make a very big difference, but it really depends on the relationship. Because I'm in a relationship, a long-term relationship, and we both used to be avoidant. And we never had a time, I don't think we've ever had even like 12 hours where we did not talk since we started dating. Never. And I think we've had moments where it was like I've had that urge, or I don't know if he had that urge, maybe, but we never gave into that. We always said, no, we're just going to either talk it out or we're just going to touch on it later, but we're still going to talk to each other. But some relationships, they need that couple days off. And I think it's more common in the beginning stages of a relationship. Now, 1 to 3 years together, many couples might need like maybe a day of no texting or little communication, or it might be like a couple hours. And when me and my significant other were in this stage of our relationship, we didn't have this as well. As I'd mentioned, we never had moments where we needed this type of space, but some relationships who are in the 1 to 3 years, they need that time where maybe a couple hours they don't talk at all and they've decided, hey, I need space. I don't want to talk about this at all or talk to you at all, okay? And the next one is 4 years plus. This is where I'm at in my relationship. But I also, the situation of how this went down or how we had to communicate space was always this way, and I'm going to explain it, where you can talk about other topics, but you don't always talk about the stressful topic, at least at that moment. You can let the stressful topic take rest for a couple hours, even a couple days, or maybe you just put it on the shelf for later. But for us, we never had like moments where it's like we're not talking to each other for a couple hours or whatever. I mean, that might happen naturally, but it was never something we agreed on. I need space from you. We never had that. Some relationships, they do. I need space from you and talking to you for a couple hours until I cool down, until I calm down. That happens for us. We've been together for more than 4 years, but what I'm saying is this is what we've done even like the first month we were together, where it was more like the space that we took was about the topic, and we benefited more from actually talking to each other about whatever we needed to and just try to stay connected regardless. But I noticed that what we do now and what we've always done is more common where couples are together for 4 years plus, or even 3 years plus. I might even say that. And so when does space actually benefit the relationship? Space benefits when typically after an argument. That's the first way. And so after an argument, let's say, for example, you guys have been together for 3 years and your idea of space is you don't talk to each other at all for a couple hours. This can benefit because you guys get to cool down and calm down. And usually couples that do this, they come back and kind of have that conversation and talk about it or figure things out at that point. Or they say, hey, let's, talk again, but I'm not ready for that topic. Let's talk about it, maybe later, whatever it is. But after an argument is a great time to take space. The next one is during some stress that is external. This one is really common with avoidance, and I think it's frustrating because it's not necessarily the most healthiest thing to do for a relationship, to be completely honest, but it does happen where sometimes, let's say somebody is really stressed about work-oriented stuff, they might stop talking to their significant other for a couple days. I don't think that's healthy, but some people do that. I think a better alternative is that you communicate. Let's say you're the avoidant who's really stressed out, that you're having some stress at work, and that you guys talk about more comfortable or softer topics that don't really provoke those feelings of inadequacy that avoidants tend to feel during external stress. The next one is during grief. Even if you're not in avoidance, some people do, depending on how strong the grief is and how the individual interprets that grief, sometimes you do need time away. And so this one is pretty tricky because there is no set time and no way to predict what kind of space you will need unless you're actually the person processing that grief. So I'm not going to touch on that too much, but it is normal if people need space during grief. The next one is during an argument to avoid escalation. I actually like this one, and maybe people will disagree with me, but I actually agree that sometimes, and I do this in my own relationship, if it's getting to the point where it's like, I don't feel like this is going anywhere, and he doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, I think it's okay to take some space off the topic right in the middle of that conversation, as long as it's agreed upon, as long as both people say, yeah, I think that it might be good to not talk about this topic. That can avoid escalation. Doesn't mean, like I mentioned, we never have a time where we're like, okay, let's not talk to each other for a couple hours. That's never it, but let's not talk about this topic for a couple hours to avoid that escalation. We'll touch on it when we're more calm, because sometimes what I notice is something so silly and small can escalate because of so many different things. I don't know if I've talked about this on the channel before, but this is like a really common combination where me and my significant other have our most like head-butting moments. It's like when I'm on my time of the month, and then for him it's like when he's having a stressful day at work or stressful time at work. He's in finance, and so sometimes they'll be like the business people he's dealing with, maybe they didn't make a payment or something like that, and so maybe there's a lot of like defaulting or bouncing payments. And so for him, if he's during one of those times, and then it's my week of the month where I'm that time of the month, I'm a woman, you guys understand that, when he's having that moment and I'm having that, and at the same time I'm like really short with him, and then he's really set off easily because he's struggling with work, and so we might butt heads, and then it's like after he figures that out and that time has passed for me, we are like, what even happened? Like, that was so silly. We were like picking about one, like something we would never even argue about, but it started happening because we were having that moment. However, if I'm on that time of the month and he's not stressed, he knows how to make things easy that I can stay calm and relax. And when he's stressed and I'm not that time of the month, it's easier for me to be there for him. But that combination can be a little challenging. We're working on it, but just something that happens. And the next one is too much social exposure. Sometimes avoidance, after having like a long social event, they need some time to take some space. And so let's go ahead and summarize. How are some of the ways that couples can take space? Well, one of them is taking a couple days off of little to no texting of communication, and it can make a big difference. More common with couples who are together for a year or less. The next type of giving space is maybe for a couple hours, maybe to a day, there's little to no texting or communication. And I've noticed couples 1 to 3 years together, this is helpful. And the other type of one of space that I think is the best method, and it's the one that I've used for my relationship entirely, 4 years plus is where it's more common. I've seen it where they can talk about other topics, but just that topic, it causes a little bit of stress. So kind of leave that on the shelf for a little bit and then talk about it later. And then when does the relationship benefit from taking this type of space? After an argument, during some stress that is external, during grief, during an argument to avoid escalation, and too much social exposure. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.